Hello, everyone. Welcome to the LeadForward Summit 2025. My name is Steve Rivera, and I'll be your session moderator. We're excited to have you join us for this amazing event dedicated to inspiring leaders through mentorship. I'll be going over the housekeeping rules. Please keep your microphone muted unless instructed to speak to minimize background noise. The chat is enabled. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat throughout the session. Our workshop leader will address them as appropriate. This session is a workshop called Creative Thinking for Effective Leadership. To start off, it's my pleasure to introduce our workshop facilitator, Joanne Curley, Executive Advisor and Leadership Coach. Let's give a warm welcome to Joanne Curley.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy you are here. Welcome to the session on creative thinking for effective leadership. And what we're going to do is have a journey. We're going to have a journey on the path to learning about creative thinking. Now, you're probably thinking, what does creative thinking have to do with effective leadership? Well, one of the things that's interesting is several years ago, the IBM Values Institute for Leadership did a study, and they surveyed 1,500 CEOs across the globe, and they asked them, what do you think is going to be one of the most critical leadership skills going into the 21st century? And shockingly, the number one most popular answer was creative thinking. And I think a lot of people were surprised. Some people say communication. Some people say, managing technology. Nope, wasn't any of that. It was creative thinking. And so why do you think that is? Well, one of the main reasons is because the workplace, the work landscape is becoming more and more complex. And by the way, this survey was done even before COVID, before the pandemic. So you can imagine how much more complex the work landscape has become and the challenges to leadership and leadership decision making since COVID and hybrid and AI and all the things that have surfaced even before that particular survey was done. So that's why creative thinking is essential to effective leadership. Now, I'm also really excited that you joined the session because I get to remind you that as part of all the gifts that you'll receive from participating in the conference, you'll get a free copy of my book, Brain on Fire, Unleashing Your Creative Superpowers. You'll get a free download of that book along with the career planning book, The Real You at Work. So the Brain on Fire book is actually a complement to an all-day workshop that I do for clients. I've done this workshop, a portion of it, throughout North America for a number of years. And so I just find it so exciting that a lot of the same discoveries are made every time we do this workshop. So you know why we need to be more creative. I'm going to share with you what Einstein said about that. One of my favorite quotes from Albert Einstein goes like this: you cannot solve a problem at the same level of thinking at which you arrived at it. I want you to think about corporate work every day, how you go into meetings and you say, let's come up with ideas, and everybody's trying to brainstorm, but they're doing it at the same level and type of thinking that they are at right now as they're trying to come up with new decisions and new ways of thinking. So here's the question: are you stuck in your thinking, or is your thinking agile? Are you able to pivot quickly, to not think the same way on the same path all the time? Learning to think creatively is learning to think differently. And that is the call of the hour. And I'm going to suggest to you, no matter what level you're at, my belief is everybody's a leader, whether you have a title or not. We all need to be engaging our brains. In fact, I believe creative thinking is critical to your career survival, no matter what level or role you have. And that's why I consider it a professional imperative. But we have a little bit of a challenge. Here's the challenge. So as I go through this, I want you to be thinking of the answer. So of the folks out here today, how many of you honestly believe that you are creative? I want honest show of hands. We've been together 5 minutes. We're family. So just be honest. How many of you honestly believe that you're creative? In the chat, I see hands are going up. I see hands are going up. If we can monitor even in the chat, if you have a yes or a no, if we can put that in there. I see some hands. Okay. So for those of you who said yes, great. Please, if you didn't say yes, please don't be embarrassed, because I have question number 2 equally as important. Like, listen carefully now. How many of you were kids? Because here's a news flash for you today. News flash. If you were a kid, you are creative, because we were all creative when we were kids. Now just think for a minute, journey back to when you were a kid. Now, depending on your age, your journey might be a little longer, but journey back to when you were a kid. And I want you to think of the things you did in play as a kid. So think about some things. So in the chat, if you would, and Steve, you monitor it for me, what were some things you did in play as a kid? I want you to put that in the chat. Or if you're brave, you can unmute yourself and share some things you did as a kid. What did you do in play, in pretend as a kid? Let's share something.
Dress up in costume.
Oh, dress up in costume. I love that. Pretend play as a costume. I love that, Allison. Thank you so much. What else? What did you do in play as a kid? Don't be shy, you guys. This is interactive. Interactive.
Being a teacher.
Being a teacher. Okay. I did that too. Liesl, I had this board in my bedroom, this chalkboard. And I would take chalk and I would pretend like I was talking. And then my mom would stick her head in my bedroom and say, "Are you still talking to yourself?" Because not even have sheets of paper, and I'd be grading people and stuff like that. So it was really a lot of fun. Okay, what else? What else did you do in play as a kid? Do we have any answers in the chat? Got in trouble with the soccer practice, pretending to horse instead of do drills. Okay. So one of the things that's important in understanding creative thinking and the connection to our childhood is that most of the time when we played as kids, we used our imagination. True? I mean, I made mud pies, sung and danced like Allison did. We did theater. I used to pretend that I was interviewing people with the plunger in the bathroom. That was probably too much information. Lots of things we did. So how many of you had imaginary friends? Anybody had imaginary friends? Raise your hand. Anybody had imaginary friends? Okay, how many of you still have imaginary friends? No? Okay, that's a different workshop. But anyway, what we really did is we used our imagination, and that's a critical piece to the creative process. So we really are creative, and we are more than we realize it. It's just that creativity is very misunderstood. And that's another reason why this workshop and our time together today is so important. So let's look at then what those definitions are, okay? So when we think about creative thinking, we're just thinking about a way of looking at problems or situations from a fresh perspective. And sometimes that suggests unorthodox solutions, which may look unsettling at first. I think the unorthodox solutions is where people get hung up on. But imagine as you go throughout your day, how you are coming up with creative solutions and fresh perspectives all the time. We do creative thinking, and we may not even realize that that's what we're doing. Additionally, creative thinking is making connections. Like when you get an aha moment, like, aha, and you're like, oh, I see this differently, or, oh, now this makes sense. That's making connections. It's also, and this is really important for our time today, it is a process. It is a process we use to develop ideas that are unique, useful, and worthy of further collaboration. So in our time together today, I'm going to share with you something called the ideation process. So you can take it back with you, and you never again have to sit at your desk and say, I got to come up with an idea. Okay, I look a little constipated. It's probably too much information too. Now, let's look at the next definition, which is also very important, because I want to connect creativity to innovation. because innovation is used a lot in leadership, and so is creative thinking. And I think innovation, the word, is probably used more, so we want to connect that dot. Innovation is turning an idea into a solution that adds value from a customer perspective. So what's interesting about ideation, coming up with ideas, and innovation is they are the perfect marriage couple, meaning you got to have ideas before you can innovate. Ideas are the prelude to innovation. And that's important because sometimes people try to innovate without understanding the process what comes before innovation. So with those two definitions in mind, I'm going to ask us to go back and be kids. So are you ready? Are you ready to be a kid again? Just for a little bit, we're going to do kid stuff. You know what kids love to do? They like to pound. So what we're going to do is we're going to pound out the ideation process. So put your hands in the air, go like this. Okay, and we're going to go left, right, left. Okay, everybody do it with me now. Okay, left, right, left. Okay, now I want to see you mouth it really loud. Go left, right, left. Okay, can you get that pounding? You know how kids just love pounding and touching things. Yeah. One more time. Go really loud. Left, right, left. Okay, that is the ideation process. And you're probably thinking, well, what the heck does that mean? Well, here's what it means. Left. The first step in the ideation process is to tell your left brain to be quiet. Now, here's some cool pieces of information about how the brain works. First, you actually can tell your brain what to do. You can instruct it to do stuff, which I totally love. So you got to tell your left brain to be quiet. Now, why do we tell our left brain to be quiet? Because in what's generally known as the left functioning right spheres of the brain, left, right, the left part of the brain is more of the judging, editing, and closure, wants to come to a decision quickly. It's linear, one thing at a time. It's also the black and white part of the brain. So what we don't want to do is have the left brain active to edit, to judge right away, because then that disrupts the creative process. So we want the left brain to be quiet and go to sleep for a little bit. Then we want to activate the right brain. Now, remember that scenario when I told you sometimes we go into meetings and we're trying to brainstorm and people are like sitting there like, deer with headlights because they can't come up with anything? That's because a lot of times when people go into meetings, they're still functioning out of an active left brain. And they have not stimulated the right brain. And we'll go into more about how to stimulate the right brain in just a second. When we stimulate the right brain, we want to activate the imagination. And then the next right is to saturate. I'll go into that in a bit more detail here in just a second. But we want to saturate our brain with a lot of new information, and we'll talk about that in just a bit. And then the left is tell your left brain to wake up. And it will happily wake up because it's been on vacation. It's lonely. It wants to do stuff. And it will process those ideas, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So the ideation process is left, right, left. Okay, so let's go into a bit more detail. So when we're activating our right brain, and here's what I want to encourage you to do, is to build ideation into your everyday life experience, or even if it's just once a week. Your power tip is to put a recurring feature in your calendar to prompt you to do creative exercises to keep your right brain stimulated. So here's some very simple things that you can do. First, you can take a brisk 5-minute walk. So what happens when you walk? Give me some ideas. What happens when you're walking fast? What goes on in your brain when you're walking fast? Anybody want to unmute, share? What happens when you were walking fast?
I focus on my steps and where I'm going.
Okay. And so Lisa, when you're doing that, what's happening in your brain?
I guess relaxing or not thinking.
Yeah, right. In fact, that's really a good point. It is, you're not thinking. That's the irony of it, right? Also, too, when you're walking fast, what's happening with the oxygen in your brain?
I more deeply, so I guess I'm taking in more oxygen.
Yeah, exactly. So the capillaries in your brain expand, you get more blood flow, and so it's actually helping you to relax. You get endorphins, and you're like serotonin, uh, maybe even a little adrenaline. That's not too bad as well, and that's also helping your brain to relax. Please know, it is very difficult to think creatively under stress because your brain's tight like this, and it really can't function that well. Okay, so brisk 5-minute walk with a friend is a great idea. Sing in the shower. No one cares if you're on tune. Singing actually activates chakras in your body, resonates, and it brings up some energy, and it actually helps with your energy and your blood flow. And then here's one of my favorite: read from children's books. So somebody unmute and share, how are children's books designed? Like, what do they look like? Somebody unmute and share. What do children's books look like?
Very simple and colorful.
Yes, very simple and colorful. Great point. So what are adults used to looking at? White paper, black text. Very boring and doesn't stimulate the brain. So when you read from children's books, it stimulates the brain, which is the whole point of the stimulate. Plus, you know what? You can read 5. Oh, by the way, they're rhythmic too. Like they are sing-songy, rhythmic, rhyming, all that kind of thing, which is really cool for the brain. Plus, you could read 5 books in a week and be at a dinner party and say, I read 5 books this week. And they don't have to know it was green eggs and ham. Very good for your self-esteem. So, okay, read children's books. Listen to music with your eyes closed. Just don't do it while you're driving. But what's the value of listening to music with your eyes closed? Someone chime in. What is listening to music with your eyes closed?
Relaxation.
Yes, relaxation. In fact, what's interesting about those old nostalgic radio stations is they activate memories. You know, you got that song, you remember that song, it makes you feel really good because you know what you were doing in high school, you know who you're with, it just makes you feel really good. That's the imagery is what music actually does. Lauren, by the way, I love your point that no matter what, you're going to still be using colored gel pens. That's all my creativity workshops. You know what we use? We use crayons. And in fact, that leads me to the next one, and that is draw on blank paper with crayons. Now, specifically, I would encourage you to use Crayolas. That brand has a branded scent that gives you an anchor or reminder or a memory from grade school. So, and you want the texture, kinesthetic experience of drawing with a crayon. It activates some things in your subconscious. And my next favorite, which is really fun to do, is to draw with your eyes closed. It's a really cool exercise where if you literally just set a timer and just relax. And what I do in a workshop is I say, okay, grab a pen or a crayon, and I'd like for you to draw a landscape with your eyes closed. They take out a blank sheet of paper, they draw a landscape with their eyes closed for 1 minute, and you can see people. It's there. They flow, they relax, they start to get the imagery. And in fact, what I'd like for you to do for just a few seconds is I'd like for you to imagine drawing, like imagine a landscape. Close your eyes, imagine a landscape. And if you imagine yourself drawing that landscape, what you're going to notice is that as time is elapsing, more detail is coming into your landscape in your mind. Y'all notice that? And so that's a really important point, because what we really need to do to activate our imagination is to activate the messages coming from our subconscious. And that is a really important PowerPoint here, is that a partner to your creative thinking is your subconscious. You want to activate it, and you want to be quiet enough so that you can hear what's coming from it. So those are some tips on how to stimulate and activate your imagination. Oh, by the way, looking at cartoons, that's another one. SpongeBob SquarePants is so illogical. You're like, oh my gosh, how can these guys be like breathing underwater? That's what you want to do. You want to look at things that are not logical. You want to get as far away from logic as possible. Okay, the next part of the ideation process is to saturate. Here comes the little bit of the more practical part. Because if you're coming up with, you want to come up with ideas for something that you're trying to solve, you want to saturate your brain with as much relevant information as possible. Now, that means related topics, best practices, parallel industries. Study, view, listen to as much new, and this is the key, new information as possible. Become conscious to combine the old with the new. And when does it do that? Well, it does that at the most exciting times because the magic starts happening when you sleep. You can work and sleep. Isn't that wonderful? So what happens is your brain starts to do the combining. And you know that this is happening because it combines the old information with the new information. And then the ideas, they pop out in the craziest places. I call it the 3 B's of the creative state. It is bed, bath, and busy. Now, for those in the United States, I usually say bed, bath, don't say beyond. It's bed, bath, and busy. So how many of you have ever woken up in the middle of the night with an idea? Or how many of you have woken up in the middle of the night with clarity? Like, oh, yes, that's what the deal is. Okay? Now, think about this. How crazy is it that your brain forced you to wake up to pay attention to the idea? Isn't that like the coolest thing? That's how brilliant your brain is. That's how your brain is wired to operate. It is operating on your behalf. In fact, here's another power tip. If you are doing practical problem solving where you work, one of the cool things to do at night, right before you go to sleep, is ask yourself 2 questions. How or what? Like, how can we do this better? How can we do this different? What can we do to improve? When you ask your brain a question, this is so cool, your brain actually goes to work to answer it for you. Is that the coolest thing? Here's an example, very cool example. One day, a guy was sitting at his breakfast table trying to problem solve a particular need for a product that he was creating. All of a sudden, he was served waffles. His wife was so kind and served him waffles. Well, as he was eating his waffles, he started to get this aha moment. Oh my gosh, he could use the waffle pattern for cushioning for this product. So here's the question. Does anybody know what that product was? Anybody got an idea to mute or say what it was? The purple pillow. I love that. Okay, this is gonna blow your mind. The product was the Nike shoe. It was Phil Knight that actually came up with the pattern for the Nike shoe because his wife served him waffles. Isn't that cool? And who would think that waffles would end up being a solution for traction and for cushion for shoes? See, here's the thing. Ideas come out in the oddest places. Bed, bath, busy, eating. Here's the key. It's when you are not thinking that the ideas actually show up. Isn't that crazy? It's when you're not thinking. Because when you're bed, bath, and busy, you are in what's called a relaxation state. Your conscious mind, your busy mind is relaxing. And you're able to hear what comes out of your thinking. So how many of you ever, I know it's going to be hard to confess publicly, how many of you ever had an idea in the bathroom? Anybody had an idea in the bathroom? In the shower? Yeah. Okay. How many of you have had an idea when you have been doing mindless work, cutting the grass, washing dishes, knitting, cleaning the house, sweeping? Yeah, that's when you're busy and your conscious mind is resting so that you can actually hear what's coming out of your subconscious, and that's where your ideas come from. So that's why we have left, right, right, left. And then when you ask your left brain to wake up, then you can start processing the ideas. Now, here, I want to caution you, though. Please, this is another power tip. Please know that if you're not used to doing this process, your left brain might overjudge or over edit out of fear. Take this to heart. Fear is one of the greatest enemies to human potential. And fear is one of the greatest enemies to your potential. So please monitor that. So part of, leading and having ideas is doing things low risk. So let me back up here real quick. The whole goal of the ideation process is not to come up with one idea, not to come up with two ideas. It's to come up with lots of ideas over a period of time. Lots of ideas. Because here's what we've discovered in creative thinking. When we try to think of the best idea first, what does that do? That actually hampers the process. What you want to do is come up with lots of ideas, because we found it's idea 14 or 16, or in many cases, it's a combination thereof. Because remember, creative thinking is combining. And so you want to come up with as much as possible so that you can get some of the better ideas. Now, here's the thing. I also want to caution you as a leader to not think this way. I got to come up with a solution. Here's what I want to encourage you to think. We have to come up with options that might eventually lead to a solution. Y'all see the difference there. It's so important that we understand options come before a solution. If we try to come up with a solution right away, we've blocked any opportunity for creative thinking, ideation, and even innovation, which is what we're going to go into next. Okay, so before I go into the next segment, I'm going to ask a question. What's one takeaway so far that you've gotten from everything that we've talked about so far? I'd like a couple people to unmute and give one takeaway so far.
Quiet the left brain.
Quiet the left brain. Thank you, Miss Allison. Appreciate it. Okay, somebody else unmute. What's one of your takeaways so far?
Be like a kid.
Be like a kid. Excellent. And then Liesl said the chat, left, right, right, left. See, it's so easy like to remember that, right? It's just, it's such an easy thing. Okay, so now we're going to go into thinking about how do you, and I'm going to ask you to respect your ideas. So here's some tips to keep your ideation fresh. Keep an idea file. If something comes to you, write it down. Please don't judge it, because it may be given to you in a time when you may not recognize the value of it. Okay? Another way to keep your thinking fresh is to disrupt your routine. I mean, even stray things like, brushing your teeth with the opposite hand, sleeping on the opposite side of the bed. Of course, for those of you who have partners, you have to ask and get permission for that. But just changing up your routine. When you confuse your brain a little bit, that's actually helpful. Okay? Also, too, very important tip, read from a variety of subjects. Did you know the more diverse your knowledge, the more of a creative thinker you will be? And then have more fun, act more like a child. That stimulates your brain a lot. Have new sensory experiences, and exercise your brain on a regular basis. That was my earlier tip, to put something recurring feature in your calendar so that you could be having brain exercises on a regular. Okay? All right. Now, the second part of our time together is, now, how do I take this part that I've just learned and infuse it into everyday leadership? And the first thing that I'd like for you to think about is a concept of deep thinking. Okay? For those folks that are in my leadership development cohorts, they develop the habit of deep thinking weekly, because it's super important that your brain is given permission. And this is so important because I know we're busy. Your brain is given permission to rest. It's so important that your brain rests. How many of you believe that rest is important to effective leadership? Okay. And how many of you believe it's important for your brain to rest? Some of you is like, my brain is like, I'm like an overload, my bandwidth, I'm done, I'm at capacity. That's why having a good, I know this is funny because you probably think, oh, this is about health and wellness. But honestly, creative thinking is also about health and wellness. Is if you get adequate sleep, you will be a better thinker. If you get adequate sleep, you will be a better thinker. Okay. So now, really, that's beyond sleep. Here's what I want to encourage you to do, and that is to block out time in your schedule to think. In the very popular book, The Effective Executive by Peter Drucker, which has been around for years and still just as relevant today, for leaders, thinking is part of your job. Does that make sense? For leaders, thinking is part of your job. It's not an option. It's something you must do, something that you must do. And so you want to block out time in your schedule. I call that, and my clients in my leadership cohort call that our power hour. So schedule your power hour because that's in fact where you're going to mine your talent and also embed the creative thinking process in your weekly work. So you've got to block out that time, call it your power hour. You're going to, empower yourself with effective thinking, which includes strategy and planning and strategy. It includes all of it together. We're going to qualities of deep thinking in just a moment. So you want to make it a discipline. So how do you embed creative thinking into leadership to be effective? You've got to create the discipline of your power hour every week. And with that, you want to have a journal. Okay, if people get freaked out by the journal thing, that's totally fine. Log, I call it leadership log, leadership book, whatever you want to call it so that you feel comfortable with it. Here's the key though. I recommend that you write it versus type it. Okay, so let me put out the question here. What is the value of handwriting versus typing? Who knows the value of handwriting versus typing?
I think it improves your memory.
Yes. Number one, Allison, great point. It improves your memory. Excellent. What else? Value of handwriting over typing. What else? It helps you to be more positive. It activates regions of your brain that typing does not. Think about that for a second. Kids who have been asked to take notes, writing them out versus typing do better on tests. And so it's positive, it releases more better chemicals from your brain. It activates parts of your regions of your brain that typing does not. And it also increases your memory and reduces stress. So those are the benefits, some of the benefits to handwriting. Okay. So in that then, when you're writing, and so look at the layers of benefit of doing it this way. Embedded creative thinking in your everyday, block it out, think, get better sleep, keep a journal, keep track, write by hand, and all of that is leveraging neuroscience. Okay, so if you did this above anything else, you're already going to be ahead of the game of other leaders in your group because this is stuff that people, honestly, they just don't do very much. Now, in your leadership log, you want to track your weekly activity and happenings. So your brain is challenged to synthesize your experiences to generate ideas for problem solving. Does that make sense? So that's why you need to give your brain a rest. That's also why you have to do these techniques, because here's the heart of developing your talent. And here's the heart of being a more, and this is a key word, effective leader, not just a leader, not just any leader. You want to be an effective leader. So what does an effective leader need to be in order to be effective? What needs to be happening? Related to this topic, somebody chime in or write in the chat. What do you need to be doing to be effective as a leader as it relates to this topic? Adapt to change, right, Allison. So that's one is adapt to change. Excellent. Active listening, very good, very good. Now, it related to adapting to change and active listening, then you have to synthesize those experiences. So what does synthesize mean? Let's look at the definitions then of deep thinking. So the first one is reflection. And by the way, y'all can get a copy of these slides so that you'll have them available with all the details. Deep thinking, you're going to be introspective. I mean, there's so much power to being a more effective leader with these components of deep thinking. So you start to be introspective. You know, you're taking time to look at your experiences, your actions, your beliefs, your values, you know, kind of what's going on inside you. Okay. Now, let me do a sidebar here for leadership. Effective leaders are not run by external circumstances. They have a sense of influencing external circumstances. So, you know, their team, their business unit doesn't run them, they run it. And they run it from the inside out, from their core values, from their beliefs, from how they see things, from strategic thinking, from strategic planning. They're in the know and they're synthesizing on a regular so that everything that they're doing each week, weekly time of planning, is relevant and meaningful. You don't want to do something now that it really should have been done 5 weeks ago or 2 months ago because you're not on top of things. So it also, deep thinking allows for analysis, breaking things down. And this is really critical as part of the innovative thinking too, breaking down into small, manageable parts. A lot of people get overwhelmed. I can relate to that. So what do you need to do when you're overwhelmed? You have to break things down. And in the deep thinking process, you can breathe, your brain can breathe to start to break things down into more manageable pieces so you can get a clearer understanding of exactly what's going on. It also helps you to be more open-minded because as part of the active listening that was shared in the chat, you can synthesize what other people say. You know, you might be in a meeting and somebody says something and you think, I don't know about that. Have you ever been in a meeting like that? But then like later on, it came to you and you thought, oh, yeah, there was some value in what that person said. Why? Because your conscious mind was immediately judging it, but your subconscious, which is where your deep thinking occurs, is really where it's starting to really take shape. Then you have the critical evaluation, and that means not being critical, criticizing. It means really breaking it apart and looking at it more from an assessing perspective. That's what critical evaluation is. And then my favorite word is synthesizing, and that is connecting dots, and that's a part of the creative process. Okay, so those are the 5 elements of deep thinking, and then we can add in where the ideation process plays into innovation. So as we wrap up, you see how that deep thinking plays into it because that feeds into innovation. And that is the critical part of taking baby steps, low risk actions to then test ideas. Okay? Low risk action to test ideas. And when you take low risk baby steps, what happens? When you test something, what happens?
Things change.
Yes, things change and or what, Steve? Keep going.
Sometimes they break.
Sometimes they break, and then you get what? Keep going.
You get feedback so you can kind of
Exactly right. Feedback. So what is feedback? Feedback is tweaking, and it's more information so that you can improve the process. So in creative thinking and in innovation, it really isn't about right or wrong, good or bad. It's about taking one step at a time as a test. Get feedback, that feeds the next step. Get feedback, you get the next step. That's actually really what's part of the combination of ideation and innovation. Because you have a vision, and part of leadership is, I want to turn this vision into reality. How do I do that? One step at a time, one test step at a time. Low manageable, low-risk actions that give you feedback. And this is the whole point. This is not let's come up with a solution. Let's come up with ideas that we can test to lead to the ultimate solution. Does that make sense? So you don't want to try to come up with a solution. No, you want to come up with lots of ideas, take a few, and then test them, and then get the feedback. And every time you get feedback, you're moving forward towards the ultimate outcome or the ultimate solution. So you want options. Options are ideas that you can test that then turn into ultimate solutions where you might have one or two or three solutions. And it would come out better than just trying to come up with the best thing first. Here's what's traditional in corporate America as we wrap up. In corporate America, we are taught to think from a puddle. What creative thinking and innovative thinking does is teaches us how to think from a reservoir. Here's my challenge to us today. Start thinking from a reservoir. And let's dispense with puddle thinking in our teams, what we expect of people. Let's teach people how to think from a reservoir. And that's what we want to do. And that's what the ideation process does. And that's what leading and being an effective leader is. It's maximizing the talent of your team by teaching them how to think from a reservoir, embedding creative thinking, lessons learned, process improvement, innovation, embedding that in your team culture as you facilitate better and better results. Okay? All righty. So that's, I'm right at 45 minutes. We can take some questions or we can do a round robin review where I call it rapid fire review, where everybody either unmutes or says I call it the 5-second takeaway. So depending on if we have any questions, we could actually do a rapid fire review with a 5-second takeaway. Steve, where are we at on time, and what should we do for our should we do a review, or are there any other questions?
There is a question from Andrew.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was asking, do you agree that creative thinking is appropriate at all levels in an organization? And should we, as leaders, mandate a block of time be allocated to what if type thinking every week or day, and etc.?
Okay, first of all, creative thinking is natural, so everybody should be doing it. Because companies don't innovate, people do. And so the reason why that question is, the answer to that question is so important is everybody has a distinct point of view. And if diversity is critical to creative thinking and ideation, then every point of view is going to be valuable to the greater whole of that. So mandate, I don't like the word mandate, but I would say give permission for people to block out time to be creative and know that thinking is part of talent management, and giving people permission to do that, because people do things in their own way like that, you know. And by the way, some of the best ideas don't come at work; they come at home when it's bed, bath, and busy. So hopefully that was helpful, Andrew. And then I see Allison has a question too.
If we have time, I'll just throw this out there.
Yeah.
Let's say you're with a team. Maybe it's something like a focus group where you don't have the same team members all the time. And you're going into you want to have some great brainstorming and ideation. Do you have a familiar ground rules or icebreaker or psychological safety? You want to build it and ensure people are open contributing their ideas. Is there something you use regularly, or is that something you not think of?
Yeah, no, that's Allison. That's exactly right. In fact, when we do collaboration, which is part of creative thinking, we actually talk. I call them guidelines, and they're called collaboration guidelines. And one of them is believe the best. Don't judge anybody else's thoughts. So in fact, the best thing to do is have the team actually come up with it, because what they can do is let them invest in the collaborative process in terms of how do you want us to operate? Just say, how do you want us to operate even if it's the only time they're meeting for the next 5 minutes, and then you know what you want to have in the guideline, but let people contribute too. You know, what's the best way for us to function to make sure that we all feel good and safe being able to say exactly what we want to say? You know, so one of the guidelines is every point of view is valid. Everybody comes from a different, you know, so you could actually have the team just make it up.
I think sometimes I think that's the great way to start a meeting or a session, rather than you know, it can be, an icebreakers can be good, but it doesn't have the same experience as creating the ground rules together.
Right.
I think.
Right. And honestly, that's really important, because if people don't understand creative thinking, or they're judgmental, or they're this is what left brain people who don't understand what we just went through will be very judgmental and very editing and very downers.
Okay.
So it's like that respecting perspective is essential, because that helps to mitigate the naysayers and the judgers who are natural left brainers.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everyone. Safitri, Joanne. I think that was an insightful discussion. We're kind of short on time. It would be nice if we can have more questions right now. Any quick final thoughts, Joanne?
I will say this at the close. Creative thinking, I've been working with for 25 plus years. I've literally done thousands of workshops across North America with all levels of leadership, scientists, lawyers, you know, like teachers. It's incredible. And what's important was when I ask people if they're creative, in most of my audiences, only 2/3 or less raise their hand. So the dilemma is, we need people to understand they're creative, but most people don't understand it. So I'm a creativity evangelist. So here's my message: go out and be a creativity evangelist. You take the copy of my book, share it, use it, and please feel free to connect with me if you need any more help.
We appreciate that, Joanne. We extend thank you to you. You know, your personality, expertise made this session valuable. I think it was a fun session, especially when you made it interactive. You know, the kinesthetic part, you know, using your body. It was pretty creative. Especially, you know, when you're connected through a computer, it's important to connect with the audience. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to, through concept or theory, reach the audience. So I think that was pretty good. I appreciate that. So let's give a round of applause to Joanne.
Thank you. It was a joy to be with you guys.
All right. So as we're closing, we do value your feedback. So I'll be sharing my screen again. If you can complete session surveys for the ones you have attended so far or the future ones, it will help us improve and continue delivering impactful events. As a thank you, you will receive a 1-month free mentee subscription to the Mentoring Club for every session survey complete. Example, 6 completed surveys equals 6 months free. A discount code will be sent to you a few days after the event. You can use it for yourself or gift it. Plus, the first 10 respondents will receive an exclusive giveaway, including the Mentoring Club t-shirts, headwear, and caps. Shipping limitations may apply to Oceania, Africa, and Asia due to higher costs. Thank you for helping us make a difference. If you're ready to dive deeper into leadership development, you can join our premier workshops for in-depth, multi-session learning experiences over the coming months. These workshops build on today's workshops insights and are designed to help you grow as a leader. Scan the QR code to learn more. When you sign up today, you get a 25% discount using the promotional code you see on the screen. Also, if you liked today's session, take the next step, become a mentor or mentee, scan the QR code to join the Mentoring Club and make a lasting impact. Get the VIP pass today for on-demand access to all event recordings after the summit. It's perfect for rewatching your favorite sessions or catching the ones you missed. We're offering the VIP pass for $13 for 13 sessions. To celebrate our 9th year anniversary with you, we're extending a 9% discount when you subscribe to the VIP pass today. Simply scan the QR code. Please join us for the next session. That will be a panel discussion called Leadership in the AI Era, Preparing for the Challenges and Opportunities Ahead. In the meantime, feel free to connect with fellow attendees, share your thoughts, and engage with one another in the chat. It's a fantastic opportunity to expand your network, exchange ideas with like-minded individuals, from around the world. In just a moment, we will play a video introducing the Mentoring Club. This video will provide you an understanding of the Mentoring Club's vision, mission, core values, insights from our mentees and mentors, volunteers, donors, and supporters. I'll remain here as your host. So if you have any questions or need assistance, don't hesitate to reach out. Let's make the most of this time to connect and learn more about the amazing work the Mentoring Club is doing.
It takes a lot of courage to start and a lot of stamina to continue. And the most important thing that I think anyone interested needs to do is to soul search to make sure they can be consistent on the path. I find that tenacity to keep going can be challenging with all the noise and everything grabbing at our attention. From my standpoint, the most important thing is that if you're going to commit, have stamina to stay in it.
In 1998, an epiphany led me to the goal of transitioning my career from the Philippines to Silicon Valley. 2 years later, I met with people in the Valley to find a job. The dot-com bubble was bursting. I didn't get a job, but I met over 150 people. In 2002, 3 of my contacts hired me. I joined their internet consulting company. 8 years later, I became Chief Operating Officer and part owner, then exited in 2020 to focus on the Mentoring Club, my Give Back Passion project. The Mentoring Club connects working people to accomplished leaders for leadership development mentoring. With a growing community of hundreds of mentors, mentees, volunteers, donors, and partners globally, we are changing the world one leader at a time.
What is my vision for the Mentoring Club? When I started the Mentoring Club in 2016, I declared that our mission is to provide a mentoring community for young leaders. When we launched, not only young leaders signed up, mid-career people and advanced career people signed up. And so we evolved our mission to provide a mentoring community for aspiring and seasoned leaders, where seasoned leaders refer to both the mentors and the mentees. Today, anywhere in the world, we help working people find mentors who can guide them to develop the skills they need to achieve their career and life goals. We help mentees fulfill their goals through meaningful work that creates positive impact in the world. We believe that when we're doing meaningful work, that's when the leaders in us come out, because we care about the results. And when we care about the results, then that is how we can make a positive impact in the world. Ultimately, my vision is that as mentees become successful leaders, my dream is for them to become mentors to others. And that's how the cycle of giving back can continue, hopefully without end, hopefully even long after I'm gone. One of the ways we attract people into the Mentoring Club is to share our leadership core values. Our anchor values are trust, leadership, and community. Under trust, we believe that integrity, honesty, and commitment are what make us trustworthy as individuals and professionals. Under leadership, we believe that health, vision, and execution are all needed to be successful leaders. One without the others pretty much leads to nothing. We have to have all of them. And it is understandable that not all of us will be great at both visioning and execution. So if you're great at visioning, find somebody to help you execute. And if you're great at execution, find somebody whose vision you can support and help execute. That way, both of you can become successful leaders. And the last anchor value, community. Under community, we believe that humanity, contentment, family are the social grounding forces that make us feel fulfilled and happy. At the end of the day, even though we're successful as leaders, if we don't have anybody to share that success with, then it will be a lonely success. And so we encourage everybody to think about their values. And if those values align with ours, then this may be just the right community to be a part of.
What is the mystery to life? it's fulfillment. Feelings come and go. Values kind of get you through the pain. They get you through the good times. They get you through a lot of things, but they are a higher level of consciousness and meaning.
Hi, my name is Steve Rivera Rodriguez. I'm a mentee in the Mentoring Club. My values is vision. For me, vision is an intense desire to see something being accomplished. It is an intrinsic motivation to keep working towards a new reality. We can call it having a dream, something that lives within you.
Hi, my name is Wen Xu. I'm an engineering leader turned leadership coach. I'm going to share with you one of my highest values, commitment. Commitment to me isn't just a word, it's a promise. So when I say I will do something, you can consider it done. And here's why. It's not about keeping promise to others, but to myself. Whenever I follow through, I strengthen that trust toward myself. So I know my word carries power. So to me, commitment isn't a burden, it's freedom. Because when I commit, doubt disappears and things happen. Thank you.
Hi, I am Ido. I am a mentor in the Mentoring Club. One of my values is humanity. What does humanity mean to me? Humanity is about building connection and fostering a sense of belonging. It's emphasized the importance of community and the collective well-being of society. In essence, making humanity a core value means embracing the qualities that make a genuinely human, our ability to care, connect, grow, and act with integrity. It's about seeing the inherent worth in every person and striving to make the world a better place for all.
Hello, my name is Angela Petrigal, and I'm a volunteer with the Mentoring Club. One of the core values that are very important to me are support systems. Support systems can consist of your family, your friends, your acquaintances, your mentors, because you want to lean on them when things get tough, when things get challenging, when you question yourself, when you just want to get advice, or you just want someone to talk to, especially nowadays when things can get very challenging. So it's important to have those people that can keep you grounded and continue to inspire you to move forward. So I'm very grateful for the Mentoring Club, which serves as a very strong support system for me. So thank you, everyone.
A better you, a better me makes a better world. It's more than a phrase. If we could take the time to maybe reflect on it, it can be used as a powerful tool to help us to intentionally grow. When we see growth in areas where maybe we are going to learn a skill, seek mentorship, develop ourselves, learn a new language, take daily walks, we can grow ourselves, and then through that, we can motivate others to also grow. We can support each other at the workplace. We can motivate each other. We can share knowledge, and together we can build. Let's take our communities where people have grown themselves. We can do that, help our communities, our neighbors, and our families. So growth is ingrained in this phrase, a better you, a better me, makes a better world.